We are so excited to dive into what it really means to rewild from the inside out and how we can attune to the frequency of our soul and the earth every day. If you've ever felt like you were searching for something out there only to discover what you were really missing within here, you're going to connect deeply with today's guest. We're talking to Erin Copeland, a former conservation scientist turned spiritual guide. Her work is a beautiful fusion of ancient wisdom, frequency healing, plant medicine, and modern science. Holly created a path called inner rewilding. And let's just say, if you've ever been feeling disconnected, untethered, or overwhelmed, you'll want to pay attention. Holly's journey is proof that healing ourselves is how we begin to heal the world. We're diving into what it means to rewild from the inside out, why coherence is a path to wholeness, and how sacred tools like breathwork, sound, meditation, and plant medicine can reconnect us with our soul and with the earth. Get ready for a true homecoming. Hi, Holly. Hi, Kara.
Oh, welcome. It's been a conversation we've been looking forward to since we met you, Holly. You started as a scientist, which is so interesting. Tell us about that evolution from scientist to spiritual guide. And was there a moment that cracked you open, or was this just a slow unfolding for you?
So I had this career as an ecologist, a scientist with the Nature Conservancy, and I truly thought that would be my life path. I really thought that's what I would do forever. But I came into my mid-40s and a number of things were colliding. My children were in their teens, so they were growing up, and I just felt exhausted. I was burnt out. I felt like nothing I ever did would be enough. And that left me feeling sad and unhappy. Even though, by all rights, I had a dream job, my children were healthy, I had a beautiful home, I had a loving husband, I had all the things, I checked all the boxes. I did what society told me to do, but I felt unsettled inside. And I guess I went on a journey to solve that inner crisis.
Oh, you're speaking my language.
I think there's so many of us resonate with that very thing. And we often say that is the universe beckoning you, where you feel like you have to do something different.
Yeah. So what was it? What were the first steps you took?
And I will also say I had a health crisis. So I had mold poisoning. And so that emerged along the way. So this growing feeling of unsettled I just described was well underway. And then a health crisis hit. So the two were colliding. I'd never truly meditated. I tried meditation in my teens. I had a spiritual mom. She was in the metaphysics. And so I had put a candle in my room and I sat down and I tried to do the thing. And it was like, I remember trying multiple times and being like, is this it? Am I doing it right? What's supposed to be happening? And then I just decided that meditation wasn't for me and I would go for runs instead. And running was my meditation. But then along came whatever it was, 25 years later. And I felt like my mind was this unruly tangle. And I knew that meditation was the thing that people talked about to help deal with your mind. And so I actually went to a retreat at a meditation center for the weekend. And it was so hard meditating all day. And there was this sweet young gentleman, and he was there, and he was like an assistant. And we got into a conversation. I said, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm here all month. I'm like, you're meditating all month? I do this like 8-hour thing that's one of the hardest things I've done in my life. And I'm like, you're doing this every day, all month? It just blew me away that somebody could really choose to do that. But he was so happy and peaceful and calm. And what I noticed was that all the teachers at this meditation center, I described it as like they had soft edges.
Yeah.
They just were peaceful from the inside out. And it was like, I want that. And so that really propelled me to continue to stick with meditation. And after that retreat, I went home and I set up a space and I started meditating half-hour a day. And it started to work. I had the confidence from this one retreat. I had the confidence to keep with it. Because of my science background, I'm really geeky and into technology. I found this device called the Muse. And the Muse is a headset that you put on and it measures your brain waves while you're meditating. And it's biofeedback device. So it starts with this rain. And then as your brain quiets, the rain gets softer and softer until it's very quiet. And that was so helpful because it gave me this confidence of how to quiet my mind and get feedback doing it. So I started using this technology like training wheels for meditation. And what I'd learned from that course and the Muse headset just really started working. And I started having fewer thoughts and I felt like I could sink in. And then I met this meditation teacher on a social media platform, and he invited me to a meditation community called Raising Our Vibration. And he became my teacher for the next 5 years. I started to be able to go deeper and deeper into meditation, and then started to really train with him, and then ultimately hold space for other people and teach. So those soft edges I was seeking, I found it.
I think everybody can hear the soft edges in your voice, and actually seeing you right now. When Rob and I met you, we could feel that immediately.
How long did that take?
It was a gradual process, but I started feeling better within 8 weeks. And the research actually on meditation, because I'm a scientist, I started deep diving into the research.
I didn't want to interrupt. When you brought up even the Muse, I'm like, scientist in you, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the Muse, not only could you put it on and measure brainwaves, but there was a way to download your files into a spreadsheet. And then I took my technical skill, and I had been using this statistical software, and I actually started analyzing my own brain and my own changes. And I have an article I wrote and a graph that I put together that over 6 months, I saw my alpha brainwaves and theta, which are the two key brainwaves for a quiet mind. I saw them measurably go up on these graphs. And so then I had this data to show that it wasn't just in my head. I actually had data that this meditation was really working. It was increasing my alpha and theta. And it was so inspiring to feel it. And then as a scientist to see it, like, look,
It's like a workout, isn't it? I tell that to people all the time who feel like they can't meditate. Of course you can't meditate, because it is almost like a muscle that you have to really work out until you get to a place where you can do it without thinking and forcing yourself into it. Many of us would love to have that measurement to really show we're making progress. Did you physically feel better? Did that also help you with the mold?
Yeah. How did that work with your health diagnosis?
yeah, I don't know that was necessarily helping the mold per se. It was helping me mentally deal with that. But then I went into holistic healing and frequency healing on the mold to combat or work with the mold. So I'm very much into alternative healing modalities. And I was working with this family friend who happened to be one of the leading environmental toxicologists in the country, who was the person who actually diagnosed me with mold over the phone. And it took me 6 months to even find out that I had mold poisoning.
What are the symptoms of that?
Brain fog. I actually had facial edema. So my face was a balloon, it looked horrible. And literally I woke up one morning and my face was all inflamed. And I was like, what is going on? Did I have a glass of wine last night? But it turned out this was a whole journey of months and months of having these symptoms of feeling terrible and not knowing what was wrong and tearing up walls in my house. Once I realized it was mold from this conversation with this Dr. Jeff, then tearing up, looking for it, hiring mold experts to look for it. Ultimately, it was in my bed. I had bought 20 years ago, he's now my former partner, we had bought a bed that was like a Sleep Number knockoff. And it had an air mattress, and then it had this vinyl lining, and then it had a layer of foam. And I tell this just in case somebody listening has symptoms like this. You never know who's going to find this. Between the air mattress and that foam, this vinyl lining, years of sweat, of heat, right? Your body's heat, and it condenses on that vinyl lining. And so this was sewn in the mattress. You couldn't see it, but we had to take the mattress apart to get it out of my room. And my husband opened it up, and there was just this layer of mold. So literally every night,
That is crazy.
isn't that crazy?
That's really helpful.
Check your bed. And this is a unique situation because of this configuration of the bed, but who knew? I'd never heard anything about this. Actually, it was one article that I searched on the internet that somebody had also said mold beds can be moldy, so you should check.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're sleeping on, so you're spending
7-8 hours with my head this far from mold? No wonder. And because mold is one of those things where my body doesn't detox well. So about 25% of people have this that are mold sensitive. My husband sleeping right next to me had 0 symptoms, but the same thing, the same mold was underneath his side of the bed, but his body processes and detox differently than mine. So it was building up in my system, but it wasn't building up in his.
Wow, what a story, Holly.
I started doing all kinds of things to detox my body, coconut charcoal, infrared saunas every day.
It's so funny you're bringing that up because that was a topic of conversation with my girlfriends over the weekend. I haven't used one yet, but we're all like, we need to be doing this.
Oh, yeah. Infrared saunas are amazing. So saunas in general, we'll just say, are amazing because they facilitate detox. I use saunas all the time at the gym and stuff. And you're still getting tremendous benefits because through your skin, it opens those detox pathways. But infrared saunas go deeper because of the longer wavelengths. And so they penetrate deeper while you're using them. The temperature can be lower. So with the regular saunas, the temperature is 170, something like that. But infrared saunas, the temperature can be lower, so you can stay in longer. And then the effects go deeper because of the infrared. So you actually have to be very careful. I made the mistake. I did an infrared sauna at a health center, and I did it for an hour right at the beginning of this detox journey. And I caused like a total inflammation detox reaction that sent me to the hospital because I was so puffed up and my body couldn't handle that level of detox. So you have to start like 10 minutes. You have to be careful, but then you can work up. And I ultimately worked up to 45 minutes.
What a journey. Holly, it sounds like you learned so much along the way. I'm sure it impacted everything that you ate, everything that you did.
Yeah. One of the things that happened after we got the bed out of my room was I actually started reacting to molds in food. So the 2 moldiest foods in our food system are corn and peanuts. Peanuts is number 1.
What?
Yes. Peanuts are the moldiest food in the world.
Didn't know that.
I don't eat peanuts at all. I love peanuts, but I don't eat peanuts at all. Corn also, the grain, not the kernels, but the grain, it sits in those silos and it gets moldy very easily. And what happened was like 2 weeks after I got the bed out of my bedroom and I thought, woo, I'm home free because I've removed the source. But then my body became hypersensitive because over those years of being in the bed, then I ate some peanut sauce 2 weeks later and the whole reaction came back within 10 minutes. I was like, what the hell? So I learned that my body had become sensitized to mold and I had to be very careful. So then I had to watch mold in food. Coffee is another one that you have to be really careful of. So there's mold tested coffee. So it became a whole journey to learn about this. And many people have mold poisoning. It's really epidemic in our society.
Wow. Yes, it's a journey that you went through. And of course, nobody wants to do that. But how incredible your body is at being able to speak to you and tell you something's wrong and give you these clues so that at least you are working through them versus your partner who may have been able to deal with it, but gosh, only knows how much toxicity is still in there.
Absolutely. And ultimately, it's so interesting because I very deeply believe there are no accidents and everything. The universe is always working in our favor. And even though you can be in the middle of a crisis like mold crisis and it feels like there's no way that this is working in my favor, but ultimately, I actually came to thank the mold because of that journey and because of that crisis. When I started feeling better and I knew all that I knew, all I wanted to do was to actually help other people.
Yeah, that's right. That became part of your mission, which leads to then talking about rewilding. And what does that mean? It's become a big part of who you are and what you're doing. Can you explain what it means to rewild from the inside out?
Oh, thank you. It's my favorite topic. There's a lot made of rewilding, but what is outside, like rewilding the environment? And you would argue that I actually spent my first part of my career trying to rewild, meaning let nature be, let her just be in all her glory. Keep our forests wild, meaning keep them in their natural state. And so if I take that analogy and bring it inside, it's about coming back to our natural state, which is joy and happiness and peace. That's who we are. That's our birthright. And all the spiritual texts speak of this, that joy and happiness and peace is what we are and it's our birthright. And so for me, it's this inside out process of coming back to that and then living life from the inside out. And that as we do that for ourselves, we see the world as we are, not as it is. So as we reclaim the beauty and the joy within, then the world becomes more joyful and beautiful. So I believe that all of the crisis that we see in the external world is a mirror of the own crisis that we haven't addressed inside. And so that the most important thing we can do if we really care deeply about the planet and nature, which is where I began, that's where this journey started for me, was my deep love of the environment. But all that did was left me angry and sad. So what I learned was that if I can come back and find that peace and joy within, then I become the greatest gift to the world. And that's rewilding. That's inner rewilding to me.
My gosh, if the world could just hear that answer you just gave, it's like the secret of the universe. I want to also say, Holly, for people who are listening, maybe I can speak for myself, that word rewilding doesn't naturally conjure peace. I think of this wildness as like this energetic frenzy in a way. So how did you come up with that word to describe those pillars that you talk about that start with peace and tranquility?
I know it's a little bit of a oxymoron, but yeah, I think because to me, wild, that sort of playful child being, that 6-year-old playing at the beach, it brings to mind the wonder and the delight of being. And that to me is the juiciness of our human journey. And it's a falling in love journey, right? It's like falling back in love with ourselves and the planet. And so wild to me is like free, it's open, it's unconditional, unabashed, here I am world. And I love myself and I'm a gift to the universe. And then I get that back. And so that essence of wonder and joy and awe of being alive, and that childlike innocence is, I guess, what wild means to me and why I'm attracted to that word.
Yeah. And it makes me think too of being so curious, asking the questions, and then allowing yourselves to go and find those answers and
not being the frame of all of the rules and regulations.
yeah, without judgment.
Without judge. Absolutely. That was a big one for me. I'm glad you brought that word in here because overcoming judgment has been a thread of my life. So growing up with my children on the chalkboard in our house was one of my all-time favorite quotes, which is from the Dalai Lama. And the quote is, "Kindness is my religion." And what I told my daughters growing up was the most important thing in any human interaction is to be kind. That's it. If you'd follow that one thing, you'll be fine. And it never left. It's still there. It's still on the chalkboard in the house. And I just feel this is such an important message of our time. In order to find that, we actually have to be kind to ourselves first.
So true. And I think ultimately what you're saying is that if we can see each other as souls and not judge all this other stuff, you will find the others that are kind. That's what's important, not everything else.
Can we talk about those pillars of inner rewilding?
Oh, yes. Thank you. So when I came through this portal of all that had happened, and I wanted to share this message with the world, how do I articulate all of what's happened and the shifts and the transformations or awakenings or whatever you want to call them? How do I articulate this for others? And the whole thing came together on one run, and this inner rewilding 4 paths dropped in like a gift from the universe. I'll name them and then I'll come back and just articulate a little bit of the themes behind them. So awaken to peace, attune to the living universe, allow the flow, and align with your wild heart. But it was really the 4 words that came in: awaken, attune, allow, and align. And is like a mandala as 4 pillars or compass points, which is so fitting for me because my career, my specialty was mapping. I was a mapping scientist. So the first, awaken, to me, the essence of this is the spiritual path of the recognition that we are consciousness. It's a consciousness first experience we're having. And so this is the essence of the non-dual path of the no separation. There actually isn't a separation between me and you, and to find that place. And the other way that I love how it's described is in Tibetan teachings that I studied, it's the ground of being. And before I found the ground, it felt to me like this experience I'm having where it's the mistaken identity that if I say I am sad or I am lonely or that we are that thought, that I'm that thing. And until we know the ground that we're not that thought, we're forever bound by our thinking mind. I think that Descartes' statement, I think, therefore I am, is like the greatest mistaken statement ever. And the fact that children learn in Western society of holding this up is truth when it's so obviously wrong. I am is first. And thinking and feeling and sensing and all these things are just part of the human experience. But we have to come back to the knowing of our experience and that we are the knower. And that's before thought. So let's start there because to me, it's the ground. It's the recognition of consciousness. And I go to the greatest truth first. And let's see, can I help you transform and shift from the recognition that you're a thought to, no, you're all that knows. You're the knower of your experience.
I'm writing down a quote a minute from you. You could just spend a minute just meditating on what you just said. It's so helpful for those of us who are always caught up in the doing world to come back to that essence of who we are. And I keep writing down, you are such a frequency, Holly. Like everything that's coming forth from you now just feels like such downloaded wisdom.
Yes.
Robin, don't you feel that?
I really do. And I'm taking in what you're talking about in terms of grounding and foundational. And I don't think most people have taken the time to reflect and think about, first of all, are they on their foundation or are they allowing everything else to define their I am?
Just remember, Karen, that what you feel in me is the truth in you.
Thank you. It almost makes me want to cry. Thank you.
So then from Awaken,
Yes, Awaken, we go to Attune. And Attune to me is to attune to the living universe. So we're in a vibratory universe and we're all having a vibratory experience. That's what this experience in form is. And to attune to me is to recognize that, number one, and then to recognize that there's this living universe, the trees, nature, and everything that is tuning us. And whatever you tune into is what you become. So if you tune in every morning to a bunch of angry people on the news, guess what? That's the frequency you're taking in. It's really not hard. But if you tune in to people who are joyful and loving and nature that is always bringing us back into this harmonic frequency of what we are. But if we don't tune into it, we'll miss it. And so this attune to the living universe is a path back into recognizing that you're a vibratory being and then starting to bring that into your daily life, whether through a tuning fork, which are amazing tools that I teach people how to use them every day to help bring your body back into attunement, or just being in nature. I think we know this instinctively because we gravitate towards a walk on the beach or a walk in the forest. We know that there's something super special there. But this, to me, it was the discovery of the science behind this, of the ancient practices that had been used to bring that into the consciousness so that you actually go, I'm going to consciously choose what I tune into.
Yeah.
And food too. Food has a vibration. Clothing has a vibration. Everything has a vibration. And if you start to choose consciously products and things that you take into your world that support you, guess what? You become that. It's not hard.
It reminds me of this really simple reflection my daughter had last night. She's 17 and we got a dog a year ago who's a 3-year-old chocolate lab. And the dog and her energy has just really changed our lives. I was lying on the couch and she looked at our dog, Lucy, and she said, Lucy, you've made me a better person. She said she comes home and the first thing she wants to do is go lie on the couch and just snuggle her for a few minutes. And she'll come do that throughout the night. And she said, and I am not on my phone as much because you're here.
Lucy makes her present.
And she said that. And she literally said, I am not on my phone as much anymore because I have you. And I just thought, to your point of attuning to what's around, go hug a tree. Stand outside and recognize the frequency, because society, we know that there is a balance between things of being in this 3D world and understanding some of these other concepts, but realize how we've gone too far. And I know it's going to continue that way unless we consciously make other choices.
I love your Lucy story. Yeah.
I do too. I forget. We know we love our animals, but sometimes we forget why. And it's because, yes, they are unconditional love, which is a frequency, but also because they allow us to come back to ourselves, allow us to come back to be present, and we can absorb that energy.
Yes, that's the thing, is because they're so present. That unconditional love. I love you. We always say to her, you're so obsessed with us. We're so obsessed with you. You know what I mean? It's just a reminder. And that's the way the earth feels about us.
That's exactly right. The earth feels that way. So glad you brought that in. So allow is, teacher Adyashanti said, enlightenment is nothing more than the end of resistance to what is. And so it's resistance to what's here is actually what creates our suffering. So that feeling in me of, I don't like that, creates a contraction. People will feel it. You physically feel like a closing of the heart. If you feel something that you don't like, you start to tune in to how your body feels. You'll notice that there'll be an energetic contraction if you pay attention. And when we drop that, when we just start to allow what's here to just be, let things be as they are, then there's this flow of the universe actually happening all the time. But our resistance is creating our suffering, is creating our experience of unhappiness. So the practices of allowing is starting to work with, how do I work with sadness, or how do I work with anger? How do I work with these feelings that I have? And to actually start to work with them compassionately and just an acceptance. So it's that great kind of surrender to this flow and surrender to what is. And there's many ways to work with it. I have meditations on my Insight Timer channel about this. It's such an important piece of the spiritual path that it can't be ignored, which is why it gets its own pillar. By the time something has happened that you don't like, it's already here. It's too late. So you might as well accept that this is what's here. If we want to move into a place of changing, we have to first come into, okay, this is what is. And when I make that move from the acceptance of what is, the acknowledgement and the surrender to what is, it opens the door for what wants to be to come.
So what you're saying is that if something happens, a breakup of a relationship, a job loss, a diagnosis, the best first step is just to acknowledge and let go of that resistance. It's not to be like, I don't want this. This is not what I want to live in my life, or to give up. Allowing is not giving up. It's just recognizing where you are in that moment. And in doing that allows the experience to shift.
That's exactly right. So in the moment that you just accept that what's here is here, and actually, if you can make the move to, it's a gift, but sometimes that's too big of a step to make. But if you can simply just acknowledge that it's here and accept it and surrender to the feeling of just, I'm just going to allow the feeling to be. I'm not going to try to fight, but I'm just going to allow it to be. Okay, sadness is here. Okay. There's a grace from the universe that comes in that moment that you just say, okay, I don't know why, I can't understand, but okay, it's what's here, and feel.
It doesn't have to be a monumental type of situation. It's about using this even in the little moments.
100%. This can be with traffic.
Yes.
It can be so simple. Oh my God, this traffic, it is what it is. It actually...
The training, isn't it?
It
If you can do it in those little moments.
It is.
You train and train. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Every day we're in school.
We are in school. School is in session. Big time.
We are in session, and everything we do is part of school. And so if we can bring this level of acceptance to whatever the smallest thing, the checkout line that's moving slowly or whatever, and just, it is what it is, it will change your life. That one thing is completely life-changing.
It is.
There is a flow of the universe happening.
Yes, you're right.
I love using that word grace. It feels there's like a nobility to it. So if you can lean into that experience with that feeling of grace versus the resistance, that's the difference.
The thing is, no one can do this for us. This is where the deeply personal part of our spiritual journey is. We have to make the choice. We are the ones who have to decide that the traffic doesn't matter and that it will be okay.
So then, okay, let's talk about a line.
And then a line, to me, is when you move through all of those things, then this is the juiciness. This is where I get to unmask myself and choose my path based on what's my heart calling. Then I told my daughters are in college now, I don't care what you do professionally, make sure that it's what you love. It is the simplest advice, but I will stand by it till the day I die. Nothing is more important than following what you love. That's the universe speaking through you in its language. Its language is love. And so all you need to do is just follow where your heart feels open and expanded.
Oh, true.
It sounds so simple. It's hard to do.
I do know this about you, Karen. And I know for me too. We followed what we loved for a long time. And I think you did too, Holly. But then at some point, it's like society and everything else became too noisy for us. And so in a way, we lose a little bit because we became so in the system. I need to have this title or be on this project or make this amount of money. And somehow you can lose that essence of, but wait, I started this because this is what I love. And so it's constantly like, this is your reminder to always check in. And if you have children, to remind them and be that reminder, be that guide, whether it's your child or a friend or somebody else, like you can remind them like, wait, why did you even start that in the first place?
It's that attune again, Holly. It doesn't mean you just go through those 4 and you get to the end and then you're done. It's constantly going back through those pillars again and reminding yourself and reawakening to new things as you grow forward, and then attuning and saying, is this what I really want and need right now in my life? These 4 pillars, they're perfectly stated for growth. They really are.
Yeah, and I love that you get that. It's not a linear path at all. It's pillars. It's these guideposts. And what came through was this distilled essence of what was it that allowed me to make this shift. And all 4 of these were an essential component.
Well, we went through them, and I feel like we're going to have to do a part 2. Let's just talk about what can somebody do if they're listening to this conversation right now. What's the first step that they can take to start to rewild for themselves?
Yeah, beautiful. I would say a morning practice of some sort is essential. With all my clients, this is one of the places that we start. What does your morning look like? So how is it that you wake up and what do you do? And for me, this is like a place that you've set aside in your house. And I will tell you, as a mom, my place was a closet. I literally converted my walk-in closet and I created a little space in there with a meditation cushion and a little altar because there literally was no other else in the house that was private. And I wanted to be able to close the door and like mom's having her meditation time. And so we do what we have to do. And the reason I think this is so important is it's anchoring and grounding in your being and being able to come back to that every morning, beginning our day from coming back to your center and giving yourself the gift of that rather than just wake up and go. So I think it's super important how you begin your day. Look at what so I'm a teacher on Insight Timer, the free global meditation app. And I have a whole bunch of practices, including one called Return to Awareness, that will guide people into the ground of being. When they're everywhere from 10 minutes, I have some 5-minute ones, to half an hour. So you can start there. And I also do live meditations weekly on Insight Timer. But give yourself the gift of creating that time. Create a little altar. Put a candle. Put things you love on it. Altars are not religious. They're like a container of bringing in the sacred into your life. And ultimately, this path is about calling in the sacred into your life every day. So start when you wake up.
Which also begins setting an intention, but also just awareness, checking in to how am I feeling? I love that you have these guided meditations for everybody. I cannot wait to utilize them. So thank you.
It's such a good reminder, too, that the kindness has to start with ourselves first. And if we do take that moment every day to put ourselves first thing in the day, find that moment just to give yourself that kindness within yourself, then the whole day can prosper from that place.
Thank you for seeing that and naming that, because there can be a feeling of it's selfish to take the time for meditation, is taking time out to take care of myself and feel like a selfish act. But actually, I deeply believe that it's the greatest gift we can give our families and our friends and the universe. Everyone is to actually take care of ourselves. This is a put on your own oxygen mask first situation in life. And that is the ancient practice of meditation, of taking time. And I think this is where I think guided meditations are really helpful, because I think silent meditation is the most advanced meditation.
It's really hard.
It's really hard. And telling somebody to go just sit in silence is, for most Westerners, I think, is going to be an exercise in frustration. So you don't start there. Start with a beautiful guided meditation that you find inspiring and helpful, and give yourself the gift of that and start to just work with that every morning for 10, 15 minutes. Light a candle. I bring my tea because I like to have a little hot beverage. Make it something you really love.
Agree. We have so much more to discuss with Holly, because in addition to and incorporating with the rewilding, she's really versed in plant medicine, in sound frequency. And so we want to continue to have these conversations with you. There's going to be part 2, part 3, and then you'll also be able to find Holly in our community. And so thank you. I'm just so glad that everyone now, number one, knows you better and your journey, and really understands this concept of rewilding in your words, because those pillars are really important to understand, and then understanding how to use them throughout your day in the more challenging times, and even in these smaller times where you just need to remember.
I think it's so important too, Holly. So many times people come and say, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. And I think these pillars break it down into such easy steps. And I think that's what we're all looking for. Things that are really meaningful that we can do and practice in our lives that kind of help give us that guidance through the journey. And I think the way you framed it will help so many be able to find that way and act upon those things and follow the journey in a different way, like that compass that you were talking about before. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm all about simplicity in a lot of ways. I even was in my science work of trying to make difficult concepts simple. And I feel like at this time where the world is changing and shifting and people need these tools, I don't want it to be complicated. I want everyone to feel like it's not hard. You can do this. And here's some essential truths that you can use in your everyday life that will change your life.
Yeah. And you bring such credibility, which to Karen and I is so important. We are looking for the trusted light workers out there, and you are.
And to see the gentle spirit that you have, it's that grace that you've been talking about. That's really what we're after, is just being able to allow and be present in it. And then everything unfolds in a much more simple way. And I think that's what we're all seeking.
And coming back to who you are, which is that simplicity. It is that joy and peace that you talked about. Just being in your present. There's so many ways to connect with Holly. Go to Insight Timer and look for her on that free app. So you would just type in the search bar, Holly Copeland, and Holly's meditations will come up. And then on her Substack, you can check out all these ways to work with her.
And I do medicine journeys, and we'll talk about that next time.
Thank you so much, Holly. To be continued.
Oh, and one other thing I probably should mention is the book. And there's going to actually be a course that will accompany the book. So practices that you can do that go with the book.
Can't wait to share that with everybody as well. So we'll make sure that people know about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.